I mean, they started the game really well, but I mean, you don't need to be a footballing Einstein to work out what Arsenal's problem is. It's been all season, really, isn't it? A lack of firepower. So many good little balls into the box with nobody there.
Yeah, I mean, albeit they've come up against an incredible goalkeeper who made some fantastic saves. I mean, the one from Odegaard down to his left-hand side was like off the charts, a great save. So you just got to say, sometimes, you know what? Well done, great save. Yeah. But there were so many balls coming into the box, and I was thinking, come on, someone's got to make a run, someone's got to anticipate where the ball's going. We've been saying it all season about their need for a centre forward, and they know that. Everyone knows that, and that showed again tonight. I know they got the goal late on, and Saka missed a big chance to make it a little bit tougher for the last 4 or 5 minutes. But I think over the two games, I don't think many people would argue, albeit they've had to rely on some great saves with Donnarumma. I don't think many people would argue that PSG were the better side over the two legs.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Very dangerous on the counter-attack as well. Yeah. Such great pace. But you're right to point out Donnarumma because those two saves, particularly the one against Odegaard, I mean, that was a beautiful strike. I mean, what? For a huge guy to get down that low that quickly, to fend off a shot of such velocity was really incredible. I think he's probably definitely favourite for the Golden Glove for this year, which he won, of course, didn't he, when Italy won the Euros?
Yeah.
But he's actually had a couple of difficult seasons. I think he was dropped at one point by Paris Saint-Germain. So he's come back really well, not just in this game, but also, of course, the second leg against Liverpool, where he was truly heroic, wasn't he?
Yeah. It was. Well, I mean, we don't need reminding that he is a top quality goalkeeper. I mean, when we did the first leg last week, there were questions to say, well, is he one of their weaknesses because he's not having a great season? But against Liverpool and certainly last week against Arsenal and this week against Arsenal, he's pulled off some really, really impressive saves. And for me, the best one was that one tonight against Odegaard down to his left-hand side. When he's so big to be that agile and get down and so quickly, it was a great save.
Great win for Luis Enrique. Of course, he's already won the Champions League with Barcelona. Got some stats here. Of course, they lost Neymar and Mbappe. Messi went a couple of years ago. They've beaten 4 English teams on the way. Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool and Villa. They've won the French Super Cup, the Ligue 1 title, which they usually do anyway. They're on track for a treble. And now in the Champions League final, where they'll probably be, I would say, marginal favourites. We'll come to that at the end, who we think will win, but I mean, they have got firepower, haven't they? And from all over in different positions as well.
I've seen quite a bit of them this season live, and they're. I mean, I go back to, I think it was the first week in October when they played Arsenal at the Emirates, and I was like thinking, really, all the hype about PSG, and they weren't what they are now. They were miles off it against Arsenal that night. But they're a completely different team. And I emphasize the word team because I think that's what they are now. They're really united. They've got good players. They've got probably the best 2 fullbacks in Europe. Mm-hmm. Their midfield is as good as any. If you give them time and on the ball, they'll pass you to death. And in forward positions, Dembele didn't play tonight. I know he came on. But they've got options as well in forward positions, and as we've mentioned, they've got top class goalkeepers. So they're an excellent side, and it's not a surprise after seeing them so many times over the past sort of 6 months. They just got better and better and better as the tournament's gone on.
Yeah, I think Luis Enrique deserves a lot of credit for transforming this team. Yep. I think a lot of people would have thought, crikey, you're losing Mbappe, and that's going to be a difficult job. And as you said at the start of the season, they weren't particularly brilliant. Certainly in the Champions League, they weren't. Yeah. But the improvement and the closing down that they do, and they do it at the right time. They do it, as you said, as a team. They've got individuals that can change the game. Yeah. Tactically, very good. They can sit and hit you on the break, or they can press you in high up the pitch as well at times. they had a sort of half an hour, didn't they, in the start of this game where you thought, well, but I also thought Arsenal needed that goal because you could always, I said it before to Micah before the game when we were assessing the chances of the two sides in this game that, Arsenal need to be patient and try not to concede. But I said it's going to be really difficult to not concede against PSG because, some of their finishing as well is terrific.
Yeah, it was. That's why I felt that the way that Arsenal started the game, I felt they have to score because when they were battering them for the first 10 or 15 minutes and creating, they were causing them all sorts of problems from long throws or set pieces, whatever. They had the Martinelli chance, Donnarumma saved it. They had the Declan Rice header. He should have done better. Obviously, the Odegaard shot, which we've mentioned. And then once it just settled down a little bit, I thought that was Arsenal's best chance, and that was their chance to put PSG under pressure, and they obviously didn't. And I always felt from then onwards it was going to be a tough ask.
Well, they started to counter really quickly, didn't they? They had the Kvaratskhelia on that great effort hit the post, and they had another good chance after that, and you could sort of sense the fact that they were going to score in the game. And Arsenal, I think, really realistically needed to score first, whenever that goal may have come, but it didn't quite happen for them. I thought Arsenal did themselves justice. They certainly didn't lay down, but again, it's been their problem. They just
didn't have enough, Gary. They just didn't. No. The further you go in the competition, we asked the question marks about Barcelona and their high line, and we've asked the question marks, or everyone has, about Arsenal and whether they had enough in forward positions. We thought that with Partey coming back in, it would that would give them a better chance, and they just weren't good enough in the end, unfortunately. And that's something that they're going to have to address in the summer. We're all very surprised they didn't last summer or even in January. So that's something they're going to have to they'll have to face. They'll hear not only from us but from so many people that this season's been a huge disappointment with them going out and not putting up a title challenge really at all. So yeah, I just think you have to accept that they tried, they gave everything, but ultimately they just fell that little bit short. What also about the penalty, by the way, that PSG were given?
Oh, it was absurd.
Ridiculous,
I'm starting to really loathe VAR. I just don't think it's good for our game. It sucks the life out of it. And
when the referee went to the screen, even the commentator said they weren't sure what it was for and who it was going to be against. And it was like once he gave it, it was almost like he was apologetic to say, well, I don't really have a choice here. It's like, and it was like, there wasn't anyone, not one player, not anyone thought or saw that as a handball. It was just a pathetic decision. It really was.
No, it was. Justice was done, obviously, with a good save.
Agreed.
Right, let's take a little breather and then we'll discuss it more when we come back. Welcome back to the Rest is Football with Alan Shearer and me, Gary Lineker, discussing Arsenal PSG. I think one or two injuries has damaged Arsenal as well. I think Gabriel's a big miss at the back. He's a warrior, and he's also such a threat from corners. And I don't think it's any coincidence that Arsenal haven't scored as many from corners of late, because he's the chief threat from those. Although they're a little bit predictable. We were talking on the group chat, weren't we?
Yeah, it was
a little bit predictable from corners now. Everyone seems to be the same.
Yeah, that's I was thinking. Well, you're trying to whip an in-swinger under the bar to a 6'8" goalkeeper who I wouldn't say was pretty comfortable, but never really was under that much. And their long throws, it was like, how many times did Partey, after even with 2 minutes to go, he's having to do a 50-yard run to go and take
he didn't run, did he? He was like jogging over as though there's 15 minutes left.
And it was like, get the ball, launch it into the box, and hopefully someone will get on the end of it and flick it on and what have you. So they just ran out of ideas, even with the subs they brought on. I know Havertz is out injured and Jesus is out injured. Yeah, they just ran out of ammunition. They really did.
Yeah, two of the people he brought on, even though they were trailing with defenders, weren't they? Ben White and Calafiori.
Yeah, that's right.
One area you thought may have got little run at it at some point, but maybe he thinks he's not quite ready for that big occasion yet. He's still a very young man. What have Arsenal got to do going ahead? I think apart from stating the blindingly obvious.
Well, it is. It's that. I mean, it's everyone's spoken about it all season. I would love to know the reason why they didn't. Whether it was, and I said it 4 or 5 months ago, whether it was Arteta's decision to say, no, I'm quite happy, or whether it was the board's decision to say, we can't get you a striker for whatever reason, money, not one available or whatever, because I don't know. I mean, I'd be really surprised if it was Mikel Arteta's decision to say, I'm really happy with what I've got and I don't need a forward. Yeah, I'd be really, really surprised if he said that at the beginning of this season. Yeah,
I'd echo those sentiments. I think it does appear that they did go for Ollie Watkins in the transfer window, and that didn't materialise. You never know. That might have gone right to the latter stages of. We don't know. Yeah. But it is a bit of a conundrum. So yeah, I think they'll be certainly trying to acquire one.
When you consider Arsenal and you evaluate who Arsenal were coming into the season, and we were analyzing and projecting what is it that they were going to do well and what are some of the areas that they needed help in, the big question was, way back then, I mean, I'm talking way back when, who's going to score the goals? You spin it forward, middle of the season, the big question is, who's going to score the goals? Spin it forward, towards the end of the season, the big question is, who's going to score the goals? We still don't have an answer on that. And what's obvious to see is that they may create opportunities, but the opportunities are falling to players that they may score the goal, they may not, but there is no certainty. So whether that's Martinelli, Mikel Merino, Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, these are not natural goal scorers. Arsenal haven't addressed that. They haven't. They thought Kai Havertz was the answer. 9? He's not the answer either, hasn't been, and while he's been injured, then apparently Mikel Merino all of a sudden became a center forward. And if you have seen Mikel Merino play in the past, you know that he's a very serviceable, clean midfielder that can do a job up top, but it's not a striker. Why is all of this important? Because then, since you don't have strikers, you have to manufacture, or goal scorers anyway, you have to manufacture ways to score those goals. And Robo just alluded to it there. They become corner kicks and throw-ins. So at one point in the game, I'm thinking, wait a minute, is this Tony Pulis' Stoke City? Is that Rory Delap taking throw-ins? Because this is what Thomas Partey was doing, running 60 yards to go take a long throw-in. That's how desperate they are to manufacture, to create some sort of danger inside the 18-yard box through a rebound here and a rebound there. And that's how their best opportunities develop, from broken plays coming from long throw-ins. So is there a difference between Stoke City, Tony Pulis, and Rory Delap and this version of Arsenal? Well, some would say that's the case, but that's how they created their opportunities. So then you start wondering, okay, if you're not creating enough from set pieces, which if you watch an Arsenal match, there are two people that are always on camera. Mikel Arteta and the set piece coach, because apparently he's more important than the players out on the field. It tells you what Arsenal are and they're what they have been. I'm not making this up. This is what they have been. They struggle to score goals from open play. They become a set-piece dependent team. And when they don't score off the set pieces, they're in trouble.
Jurgen, you're laughing along here to what Ale has to say.
No, I love it. No, he's totally right. Alejandro is totally right. I mean, the difficult for Arsenal was, if we create the chances early, who puts them in? And you need, if you have 3-4 top chances, you need to find a way to put it in the back of the net. And if that's not the case, then it becomes a battle, especially in midfield. So you need to be better than your opponents in midfield. You need to win the decisive one-on-one battles. And I think the midfield, when you go through Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz, and this kid Neves, which is all over the place. I mean, he's just making every decision right and wins so many balls back. Then you lose your battles in the midfield, and then you have a problem if you're Arsenal. And you cannot just rely on set pieces and corner kicks and long throw-ins. It's a nice little weapon to have. Obviously, here and there it works, but not on this level, not on Champions League semi-final level. But they had their chances, and I think they will regret those chances, especially in the first 20 minutes. And then you got to give a huge compliment. You know, we talked yesterday about Jan Sommer from Inter Milan being the man of the match. I mean, Donnarumma, when he did a couple of saves, especially the last one on Saka's curling shot there, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And you need a top-class goalkeeper then to go further as well. And I think just Arsenal was just lacking in a couple of elements at the end of the day.
Let's get into the bones of some of the game. I'm going to come back to you in a minute, Alex. I know it's something that stood out to you. Stuart, what did you make of Martin Odegaard today?
Again, he didn't have enough impact on the game. You know, he got a lot of the ball and he closed down nicely and he's waving the other players forward to go and join him in pressing the ball. And he did that very, very well in that first 25 minutes. But if you're a player that's got a great left foot and you're the main creative player in terms of passing, you've got to pick out passes that are going to cause the opposition problems. And I can't remember too many passes he's played over the two games where he's actually caused PSG a problem. He might reverse it back out to Saka and let Saka go at somebody and get a crossing. He might hit the odd crossfield pass, but he didn't ever pick out somebody with a forward run. He didn't play that little 1-2, which he was doing earlier on the season. You could also say that, has he got anybody to hit at the moment? Because they aren't playing with a centre forward. So Marino is playing that little bit deeper. But overall, I thought he was disappointed and was a bit part player in both games. And he's the captain, he's the leader, he's the one that should have been dominating.
Yeah, I would take it even further. You can't sit here and say that Martin Odegaard was poor over the two legs. I don't think that's quite the right analysis and description of his performance. But it was all too simple, too obvious. He's completing this pass from here to there. Not enough game-changing plays, game-changing passes. And if you are who you're supposed to be for Arsenal, then you have to be able to pick out the pass that Thomas Partey cannot pick out. You have to be different than those around you. That's what makes you a special player, because you see a different picture and you're able to execute a different plan. That's not the case. He was completing passes that, quite frankly, were very obvious. I get the ball from here, simple pass to Bukayo Saka there. I get the ball here, simple pass to Thomas Partey there. No, how about that one, that one, that one? It's never there, and it wasn't there over the two legs. And when you don't have penetrating passes, when you don't turn PSG around, it makes it a whole lot easier for them to defend.
Frank?
Yeah, it's crazy because you don't want to criticize him. I mean, we have the tendency to forgive him, to forgive everything to what he says, because he's clean. He's a proper, clean player with a nice haircut, with a style, elegant style, everything. He has everything. And he's a good guy, and you want to be with him. But if you have to analyze everything he does, that's too, as Ali said, it's too obvious. It's too simple. No risk. No, I'm going to try that. I'm going to bet on that one because maybe I'm not going to be successful, but I'm going to try, because if it's successful, it's going to create something different. It's too clean, really much too clean. And in modern football, it's okay, but it's not enough. It's really not enough. I take another example, another player. Bergkamp was that kind of player, but that guy was capable of taking risks, of trying to do something that only few people on the field will be able to. That's what Odegaard is lacking right now.
Would you like to see him take a few more risks, Jurgen, Martin Odegaard?
Well, you know, you're only as good as your opponent. And I think, you know, I mentioned him before. With Neves, there was a kid on the field that as soon as Odegaard cut the ball, he was right there. You know, they were in his face. I mean, they doubled him up, like they did double up also on Saka most of the time. And that made it very, very difficult for him. But it is those games, basically, those games where you have to kind of come out of your shell and figure out a way to influence that game and impact it with the decisive pass, with a shot on goal, with something. And there needs to be another level of also, even if you're a clean player, as Frank describes him, if you're a highly technical player, you got to get a piece of nastiness inside of you as well. You know, and that's a guy like, for example, Kvaratskhelia. He has that nastiness. He's fighting with you on the corner flag, and he's not giving up. He's not giving up one single ball. And that is not the clean way of doing things. But Paris Saint-Germain had a couple of guys on the field that were there for doing also the dirty work and going to your face and making sure that you're not getting confident on the field, and that you actually start to believe maybe you can turn it around still if you are Arsenal. They made sure that throughout the game, then after they survived the first 20.
Mikel Arteta has been engaging in some mental gymnastics this week. Before Arsenal's Champions League semi-final second leg against Paris Saint-Germain on Wednesday, Arteta had his tongue firmly in his cheek when suggesting his side should have 2 domestic titles to show for their efforts in recent seasons. Winning trophies is about being in the right moment in the right place, Arteta told reporters. Liverpool have won the title with fewer points than we have in the last 2 seasons. With the points of the past 2 seasons, we have 2 Premier League titles. Ignoring the fact that the season still has 3 weeks left, Arteta was doing his best to protect and promote a squad that he has built since he arrived in 2019. A gallant effort at the Parc des Princes was not enough to overturn a 1-0 first-leg defeat against PSG. Arsenal started strongly and should have scored in the opening 20 minutes but eventually ran out of steam against an organised, elite Luis Enrique side. After the game, Arteta told reporters, "I am very proud of the players 100%. I don't think there's been a better team than Arsenal in the competition from what I have seen, but we are out. This competition is about the box, and in both boxes are the strikers and the goalkeepers, and theirs was the best in both games." There was truth to Arteta's response. Gianluigi Donnarumma pulled off some excellent saves, especially in the early stages of Wednesday night, while some excellent finishing from PSG on either side of half-time was enough to secure the victory. A glance at the expected goals XG tally illustrated in the match dashboard below could give Arsenal fans a case for arguing they were the dominant side winning the XG battle across both legs. However, game state is important and Arteta's side were chasing the tie from the 4th minute of the first leg onwards. They were compelled to attack to stand a fighting chance of remaining in the competition. We don't need to live in a binary world where everything is either the best or the worst thing in football. There is nuance, complexity, and context that sit behind every game that we consume. A fair assessment would be to say that Arsenal were not the best team of the remaining semi-finalists, but they are still an incredibly strong side on the European stage. So what were Arsenal the best at in the Champions League this season? In short, nothing is popping out in the numbers. Arsenal have put together an excellent campaign in Europe, and getting to the latter stages of the tournament should be commended. However, it would be disingenuous to suggest that they lead other teams in crucial metrics. We are dealing with small samples at the best of times with Champions League football, but let's rattle through a few key metrics. Have Arsenal been the most intense pressers? Sadly not. A PPDA passes per defensive action of 13.4 across the knockout phase puts their press as the 9th most intense among the final 16 teams. They did squeeze the pitch well to regain the ball high up, winning possession in the attacking third on 5.5 occasions per 90 minutes. Was that the best on record? No, that would go to Bayern Munich, who averaged a rate of 6.9 high regains per 90. Okay, fine, let's strip things back to goals. Arsenal's 5-1 and 7-1 thumpings of Sporting CP and PSV, not to mention 3-0 home wins against Monaco, Dinamo Zagreb and Real Madrid, showed that they can turn things on in Europe, especially given their struggles to break down deep defences on the domestic stage. Did they average the most goals in the competition? No, fellow defeated semi-finalists Barcelona have been more free-scoring, averaging 3 goals per 90 minutes, edging out Arsenal's average of 2.2 goals across their 14 games. What about the other end of the pitch? Again, so close. An average of 0.71 goals conceded per 90 minutes is the second best defensive record, behind title rivals Liverpool, who were knocked out in the round of 16 despite finishing top of the league phase table, conceding just 0.58 goals per 90 in this year's competition. Territory? No, Arsenal did not have the highest field tilt share of possession across the respective attacking thirds, with Manchester City's 79% the biggest share in Europe this season. Arsenal's 59% field tilt figure is above average. More on their possession game? We could look at how much Arsenal looked to control their gains by exploring their volume of sequences with 9+ passes. With an average of 16 per 90, it edges above the competition average but still ranks 16th among the 36 teams that qualified this year.